Okay, it should have done its little announcement. I'll turn on my videos so you know that I am a real person here. And I'm going to pin myself. Spotlight for everyone. There. Hopefully it didn't get rid of your screen there, but here I am, a real person. And now I'm going to turn off my video to save bandwidth. So it looks like about half of you guys are from the west end of the valley. We have east end, central valley, a couple people or somebody from the desert, outside of the county, and someone from other. And then we also have a good mix of people working with school and community gardens, wanting to support them, and just general enthusiastic supporters. So welcome everyone. We're really excited to have you here with us today for our first school and community garden collaborative workshop of 2022. Our next one will be in May, and we have the link to register for that at the end of the presentation. This is brought to you by the UCCE San Bernardino County Master Gardeners in collaboration with our environmental education team. That is Debbie and myself. Oh, I always forget to introduce myself. My name is Maggie O'Neill, and I'm the San Bernardino County Master Gardener Program Coordinator. Was a volunteer before that, and I'm part of the environmental education team with my coworker, Debbie Schnoor. This workshop and collaborative is also supported by the Master Food Preservers of our county, and they'll be presenting at our May workshop. And they also do free online classes, just like the Master Gardeners do, on a wide variety of topics. So check those out. Just a few housekeeping. The presentation is being recorded. I know now it notifies you guys. The recording of today's presentation and resource sheets will be provided on our website. If you go to the website where you registered for this class, then on the left-hand side, it says recent presentations. And if you click on that, then you'll be able to find our recording from today on our YouTube channel, and also resource sheets. And you can find other recordings that we've done in the past. Please put your questions in the chat. And like I said, feel free to share your garden's social media page or website information, or if any resources you want to share with school and community gardens in the chat, and we'll pull those together and send the appropriate ones out in an email. You can also save the chat if you're on a desktop, and if you click the three dots on the upper right-hand corner, it should give you an option to save the chat. So for today's agenda, I'm just doing my welcome just to say how truly grateful and excited we are to have you here to come together to talk about school and community gardens. Debbie is going to present about SB 1383 and the Organic Waste Recycling Program in just a moment. Elizabeth Mcswain from the Carmel Connections Foundation is going to be talking about gardening for everyone at 9:30. Jackie Lacy from Kimbark Elementary will be sharing about engaging 21st century students at 10 a.m. And then we'll have somebody, Cassidy from Upland Unified School District, talk about their farm to school program. At 10:30, we'll go into breakout sessions at 11, and then we'll have some resource sharing from us and from you at 11:25, and at 11:30, we'll adjourn. So I think with that, I'm gonna stop my sharing for just a moment. And Debbie Schnoor, our environmental education coordinator, who has just started her position recently, is going to share. She started in about August, but she's a master gardener and volunteer as well, and she's just hit the ground running, supporting all kinds of activities. So Debbie, they're your pin for just a moment, and if you want to share your screen, unless you're thinking about sharing your screen and then you don't want to be pinned, but we're really excited to have you guys here. So.
Okay, I am sharing my screen now. How's that?
Yep, we can see it.
Let's see if I can close. Okay, and then
if anybody's having trouble viewing the PowerPoint because Debbie is pinned, then you should be able to go up to your options on your screen and swap screens. And with that, Debbie, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, I'm just going to stop my video to make sure I got enough bandwidth here. All right, so we'll start now. All right, can you see this, Maggie?
Yes, looking good.
All right, okay. Hello, everyone. My name's Debbie Schnoor, and as Maggie mentioned, I'm the Environmental Education Coordinator for UCCE San Bernardino. And as of last week, I am also the Farm to School Program Assistant for the Upland Unified School District. So today I'm going to talk about SB 1383, that's Senate Bill 1383, for reducing short-lived climate pollutants. And I want to credit Cal Recycle for developing most of the slides I'll be showing you. The Cal Recycle slides are available to the public on their website, and I'll be sharing that link later. So in this presentation, I'm going to focus on the bill's organic waste reduction requirements and how they may affect school and community gardens. And I want to preface this presentation by saying that SB 1383 is the most significant waste reduction mandate to be adopted in California in the last 30 years. It's really groundbreaking legislation. And the regulations just went into effect January 1st of this year. So if you have not heard of it yet, you probably will be soon. So the topics I'm going to cover in this presentation are the background, why California passed this law, the law's requirements and key implementation dates, what the law requires of local governments, the changes you may see in organic waste collection services, and finally, some considerations and actions for school and community gardens. And we'll have some time at the end of each presentation for questions. So I'd appreciate if you would hold your questions to the end. So what is SB 1383 all about? Well, it was meant to address organic waste, which is the largest waste stream in California. And if you look at the pie chart in the middle of this slide, the organic waste is on the right-hand side and non-organic waste is on the left. So organic waste is divided into several different categories, including green waste, such as garden trimmings, grass clippings, wood waste, food waste, and paper. And you can see from the chart that organic waste makes up more than half of our waste stream, about 52%. In 2018, Cal Recycle performed a waste characterization study that showed that it collected all the data that you see here and showed that food waste is 13% of our organic wastes. And what that means is that more than 6 million tons of food is being thrown into California landfills every year. So to address this, SB 1383 requires the state to recover 20% of disposed edible food to feed people in need. And about 1 in 5 Californians are food insecure, and that means they're lacking reliable access to affordable, nutritious food. And recovering 1 ton of edible food could provide more than 1,600 meals. So what's the big deal about throwing organic waste in landfills? Well, when organic waste decomposes in landfills, it releases a lot of methane gas, and that's a greenhouse gas and also known as a short-lived climate pollutant, or SLCP. So short-lived climate pollutants remain in the atmosphere for a shorter time than carbon dioxide, but they have a much greater warming effect. So for instance, over a 20-year period, methane has 84 times more warming potential than carbon dioxide. And landfills are responsible for about 20% of our state's methane gas emissions. And we're already seeing the effects of climate change throughout California in rising sea levels, reduced snowpack in the mountains, wildfires almost any time of year, drought, heat waves, etc. So that's why the state enacted SB 1383 to reduce the global warming from the short-lived climate pollutants and reduce the environmental health and financial impacts of climate change. So let's look at the requirements and timeline for SB 1383. It was adopted way back in September 2016 and set aggressive organic waste reduction targets. And those are shown in the green boxes. And these are relative to 2014 levels. So it requires a 50% reduction in organic waste disposal by January 2020, which is already passed, and a 75% reduction by 2025. And so one question here is, do you think we met the 2020 goal? And as far as I can tell, I've not seen any data that shows that we did. And in fact, it looks like our organic waste is increasing. So hopefully we can do better by 2025. And the overall goal is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by at least 4 million metric tons per year by 2030. And as I mentioned previously, SB 1383 also requires a 20% increase in edible food recovery by 2025. And if you look at the red box in the center of the slide, it shows that the regulations took effect on January 1st of this year, and along with state enforcement by CalRecycle. Now, local governments are still trying to figure out how to implement these regulations. So it will be another 2 years till they're required to enforce them. So here are the activities that are the responsibility of jurisdictions. And in the context of this law, a jurisdiction can be a city, a county, a city and a county, or a special district that collects solid waste. So it's whoever is responsible for collecting waste. So as an example, let's assume the jurisdiction is a city, and the city will need to provide organic waste curbside collection to all residents and businesses, establish an edible food recovery program, as I mentioned before, and that's for appropriate businesses. They're not going to come to your home to be asking for food. And then conduct education and outreach to the entire community. So you may hear more of that soon. And then one of the most exciting parts of the law is that it requires procurement of recyclable and recovered organic products by these jurisdictions like the city, which include compost, renewable gas and electricity, and recycled paper products. So whatever is recovered gets to be used. And then also requires a city to plan for adequate recycling and food recovery capacities. So they have to build those collaborations with the organizations that can do that, and then monitor compliance, and in 2 years conduct enforcement. So jurisdictions are required to provide organics collection to all residents and businesses, and they can choose the collection system that works best for their community. So you may be seeing some changes to your current service. And here's 3 examples, but there can be more, 3 container, 2 container, or 1 container, and jurisdiction can choose to use even more than 3 containers if they wish. So in a 3 container source separated collection service, the blue containers used for recyclables, and you may be familiar with that already. So paper, plastic, glass, and metal. The green containers for compostables, such as food and garden waste, and the black is for everything else, for what goes in the landfill. In a 2 container system, 1 container is either the green or the blue, so compostables or recyclables, and 1 container contains mixed waste, and that needs to be sorted by a facility that's going to recover at least 70% of the organic content from that waste. And then the 1 container system, it's just 1 container, everything's mixed, and again, it has to be recovered. So in these type of systems, It's either more expensive at the front end to implement more containers and that type of pickup, or it's more expensive at the back end to recover organic waste from the waste stream. So moving on to school and community gardens, how might SB 1383 impact school and community gardens? Well, first, if you're not doing so already, make sure you're disposing of your organic waste properly to comply with local regulations. Do your best not to throw green waste in with the landfill waste if you can. It's also a great opportunity to start composting organic waste in school and community gardens and to educate students and community members about the potential benefits. And then ask organizations and individuals to contribute organic waste for your composting. Businesses such as grocery stores, and restaurants may be more likely to contribute now because they can no longer throw their organics in the dumpster with other types of waste. So also check with your jurisdiction for free compost. It may be more readily available because each jurisdiction is required to procure a certain amount of compost for use in the community. And then lastly, consider informally participating in edible food recovery by donating your garden's excess produce. And the infrastructure is being developed for food recovery, and that should make it easier in the future to do that. So as I mentioned in the beginning, most of the information in this presentation comes from Cal Recycle. And if you're interested in keeping up to date with their short-lived climate pollutants program, you can sign up for the email list on their website, and they have a lot of different programs, so you can sign up for all of those as well. And their website has a wealth of resources on the laws, regulations, waste collection and recycling, food recovery, education, outreach, and much more. So I encourage you to take a look at that. And that's at calrecycle.ca.gov under organics. And then if you have any questions on organic waste disposal and composting in school and community gardens, feel free to contact me. My email is dschnoor@ucanr.edu. And that's the end of the formal presentation. We have time for a few questions before we move on to our next speaker. So you can put your question in the chat or raise your hand, and Maggie will help with that. So I'm going to stop sharing at this point. Are there any questions?
Perfect. Well, give people just a minute to type their questions in the chat, or if people want to raise their hands and unmute. I have a question that's been burning in my mind, and I feel like maybe it's so obvious that I should know it. But what's the deal with meat and all the things that normally don't go into a compost pile? Are they still considered trash, or are they supposed to be diverted under this program?
They will be diverted, and you know, in the larger composting systems, the more industrial ones that cities are using, they can break down meat, they can break down everything. And in fact, you know, there are a lot of farms and gardens in the area who are using everything in their compost. So you just have to be a little bit more careful about the mix of the different components, but pretty much almost all food can be composted, and it is at a larger scale.
Okay, all right, let's see. We have somebody posted in the chat. Let's see here. Yeah, somebody else was wondering the same question. And I know from our Master Gardener training classes that our horticultural advisor, Janet Harton, had talked about those higher level of composting. And we're so trained to not put meat or anything with butter in our compost piles. But I know like the city of Claremont is providing us with small buckets. And so everything that's edible would go in there, huh?
Yeah, they use such high temperatures that everything can be composted. And then Jackie asked about the school level. She says, I wonder how to navigate this at the school level. As of now, I've been told I'm not allowed to collect uneaten food, either for human or animal consumption because of liability. I think, you know, it is going to go school district by school district. So it is, and it's actually school by school, and nutrition services can decide how they want to handle it. But, you know, whether they let you use that in their garden or not can be somewhat up to them. However, they are going to have to find a way to separate that waste and have it go somewhere. So, you know, it is up to them. And then Lynn says, you know, as long as you do hot composting, you can compost everything. And then Brittany says, we do hot composting at Chino with community composting for green spaces. So we take meat bones, and we also do that at Route 66. We're working with community composting for green spaces, and we do everything. And Lynn says it's not super difficult to learn. So yeah, you just have to make sure that you're really getting everything up to temperature. But, you know, thus far, you know, at least at Route 66, we have not had really any issues with smell or rodents or anything like that. So I think if you're doing it properly, you can compost almost everything. But, you know, sometimes we recommend for beginning composters that they, you know, mainly focus on vegetables and avoid meat. But, you know, as you get more comfortable with the process, you can add these things.
Does the scale of composting affect whether you can do a hot or cold compost? Like a home gardener with a very small pile probably wouldn't be able to achieve conditions.
Well, you know, and maybe Lynn can chime in on this, but, you know, my understanding to really get to those temperatures, you should have, you know, a minimum amount of compost. So normally what I've seen is 3 by 3 by 3 feet. So if you can get enough compost in there, you should be able to get it up to temperature, and that should be doable in backyard composting. And then Valerie, go ahead.
A good, like, maybe minimum size for hot composting. It could be smaller too, but that's probably good. And I do know that there are home composters who, you know, are able to make hot compost. Sometimes it does require bringing in some outside material, but even if you're doing home composting, oftentimes people do have to bring in like outside, like wood chips and stuff. So like I'll recommend people to try to bring in like manure or like coffee grounds, like, you know, from a coffee shop, and to layer that in. That helps to kick up the temperature. And so people are able to do it at home. I think people maybe try to, you know, like be less involved with their compost at home, and so then it maybe doesn't get so hot. But it's definitely doable for home composters. And then at the community level, the way we try to organize it is to have like a paid site manager or a teacher, and so to really kind of hold that standard of hot composting, and then that way, like, we can take all of the materials at least at the community level.
Thanks, Lynn. Appreciate that. Yeah, there are so many different types of composting and so many different ways to compost different kinds of materials. So there's definitely a lot to learn there. But as Lynn mentioned, it's really not that difficult. Valerie says school waste might be tricky as the district food programs operate under the federal food service regulations. And, you know, as far as I know, like federal food service regulations more regulate what is actually served. As far as the composting goes, it seems like it's more local. regulations, but there are many, many, many schools out there that are doing composting with various materials. So I think it's really, it's a matter of getting the schools comfortable with the fact that composting can be done in a way that is not going to attract vermin and not going to smell up the campus. So I think that will be evolving. And I think that schools are going to have to think more about this, especially in California with this new regulation. So, and then Linda says sometime in the future, a session focused on hot composting would be beneficial. And we can certainly do that. So thank you.
Yeah, one of the things that we want to do with this collaborative, and it's something that Elizabeth Mcswain, our next speaker, and I have talked about a little bit, which is sort of take the collaborative beyond the internet and the virtual world and into the actual community gardens. And we're always going to keep this quarterly meeting online so that we can continue doing, we have the largest county in the continental United States. And so we're going to keep this quarterly meeting online, but in partnership with Elizabeth and some of our other community garden partners, we're going to try to incorporate tours. And I know that there's a school in LA that I visited, which has an amazing outdoor composting system. So maybe touring these composting systems in the future is something that we can add down the road. I think that would be great.
All right, Maggie, I will turn it, turn it back to you for the next speaker. Is Elizabeth on?
Yeah, so I think we have Elizabeth on as one of our Elizabeths. I think she might be joining from 2 devices, but we have Elizabeth Mcswain, who's part of the Carmel Connections, or is the founder of the Carmel Connections Foundation, and also the Seeds of Joy Community Garden. She is an amazing individual, and she is going to share with us today. Elizabeth, let's see, I've got you. There's Elizabeth. Okay, hold on, I'm gonna pin you. So spotlight you for everybody. Okay, let's see. Okay.
So here we go. So I have Supervisor Hagman here, along with a lot of our other community partners and dignitaries. Right here, we have Al Bowling, Councilwoman Deborah Parrott, Master Gardener. Today, she is officially in the Master Gardener capacity, because we did that. All right. So today, I'm so thankful for the opportunity to share the updates with you and to introduce all of our guests to the community garden. So we're going to do, as they say, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So I'm going to take you on the tour. Remember when we first started a year ago, we had a gate and that was it. So now we're at that gate and we're coming in and you're at the Zen Garden. So this area for everyone, I won't just say one name, will be our Zen Garden. So whether or not, I'll turn it that way. Hi, you don't want to see me? You don't want to just see me? You want to see the garden? My apologies. Thank you. See, it takes a village. Okay, so this area right here is the Zen Garden. We have a bird habitat where we are listed, and we have very aggressive, very happy hummingbirds that live with us here. So whether or not you have a plot, you are able to join us here. So Supervisor Hagman, this area right here, does that logo look familiar? That's from your...
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, so we have represented right here, the ballot. Tell me about that. What is that?
The 4 different
Yes.
different groups there, fruits, grains, proteins, and vegetables.
Mhm.
They're all part of the diets that we must have all the time.
Exactly, and Champions for Change, they shared that template with us, and so we have illustrated that here. These 4 beds were not here when we visited the last time. These are for our this is our ADA compliant area. So whether or not you are in a wheelchair, if you have mobility issues, you can plant with us, you can garden with us and visit with no challenges. And that comes through some funding too with Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield. There you go. All right. So you have shared spaces in regards to strawberry mint, pineapple mint. So the difference between this garden and most gardens, you actually have areas that you do not have to. And then we have right here, we have IHP representatives. These are the director, Ronnie from First Five, California. And then we also have, I'm gonna make you famous. But yeah, so again, this area, whether or not you have a bed with us, if you said, I'm making some tea, I'm making something and I need mint, this is a free area to cut. So that's the big difference. And then as we go through, we're coming to this area. So we have the edible community kitchen. The edible community kitchen is an area where we're going to be growing and harvesting, and we're taking it over to Mercy House. Mercy House takes care of all of our homeless in the city of Ontario. And so it takes a lot of work to do that. So when they can't come out because they're providing services to the community, we have an organization that is partnering with us, 100 Black Men of San Bernardino. And what they do is they have sponsored the irrigation for this portion. They provide us with the manual labor necessary to maintain the space, but most importantly, they're going to harvest and help us to get it to the restaurant so that we can prepare one healthy hot meal every week and take it over to Mercy House. So who do we have here today?
Good morning. I'm Dr. David Morrow, president of the 100 Black Men of the Inland Empire. Happy to be here. Happy to be partners.
Yes. All right. And so why are you doing this project with us?
It's-
Why are you supporting this project?
Because it's the right thing to do, number one.
And I'm fabulous. No.
We get the opportunity to give back to the community and have our mentees, our young men, be
Yes.
involved in our young women so they can grow up knowing that it's about giving back, not so much taking, but what can we give back?
Exactly. And so speaking of the young mentees, so are you proud to see what you planted is growing now? So Master Gardeners, it takes a village. We couldn't do this by ourselves. So with this organization, they support the youth and being able to be vocal in regards to their help, their efforts to support the community. So what is your name, sir? Drew Morrow, and he is the son of Dr. Morrow. And he suggested that we have items that we could plant that grow quickly so that when we harvest them, we'll be able to go and on a regular basis. So we have Tim here as well. Did you want to say it?
Hello, my name is Tim Bowser. I'm the head administrator of the Empire.
Excellent.
And we're working with Elizabeth and
Thank you. Excellent. All right. So as we step over, so I don't want you to miss the fact that the raised beds that were built by the Carpenters Union, they assisted us with the complementary labor. So now we have a total of 31 raised beds throughout the entire garden here. So I hope you guys are getting to see. It's a year of learning. And what we're learning is that the soil from Kellogg Organics, arugula loves it. So if you want some arugula, come on down because we've got it in abundance. So we've passed the community kitchen, and now we're going over into somewhere really near and dear to my heart, the kids area. So Supervisor Hagman, there's a special person over here I'd like you to meet. Here you go. So this is Troop 5574, supports our little reader free library. Can you tell them a little bit about it?
Books, and we're getting donations to like keep carrying it. And once a month, every once in a while, we have books and we'll read a book and we craft according to their.
That's awesome. You go get your top award, Girl Scout? I was in Girl Scout too. Great.
Yes. And how they assist us, they sponsor the library, but in addition, the first Saturday of the month, they actually man the garden and they open up and they greet everyone and make sure that everything is open for the public to have access to the garden, because again, it takes a village in order to run this. And then we have some spectators right here. Are you going to be reading today? Okay, well, I think you have some happy readers who are ready to hear it. All right, and now this area. So we're still building this out. This is an opportunity for anyone online right now who knows the benefits of gardening in regards to the therapeutic benefits of gardening. This is the kids area. We read, the children sit on the stumps and we do read to them in this area, but we're allocating this space to creating a beautiful sensory garden for children on the spectrum. Anyone that has any type of invisible disorder as well. So whether or not we have a brain injury group that meets in here because they prefer to be, in a safe area. This area, we are officially partnering with Anthem. They have stepped up and the initiative is Gardening for Everyone. So we will have this built out. The Ontario Montclair School District will be using this space for field trips for their children on the spectrum, beginning in, we initially wanted April, but we will actually have that ready. I'm looking at more of May. So by May 14th, we'll have everything built out. So I hope that you come back and hope you can.
Have all the resources needed.
We do not have, we do not have a, Supervisor Hagman just asked if we have all the resources we need for it. We still need, we're working with therapists. We want to make sure that we're getting the pavers the way that we need. So the price of everything connected to the garden is still skyrocketing. So the challenge is that we cannot, I can't say how much it's going to be right now. I was told 31,000 for everything that we needed just in regards to the structural stuff, but to excavate and bring the irrigation again, we still need funding for that. Yeah. This area, super excited, the Cal Recycle initiative. So we started this 2 weeks ago, and we have diverted, as of 2 weeks, 800 pounds of compost, food scraps. So I don't know if you want to get your hands dirty. I don't know if you want to get your hands dirty, but anybody online who's interested in composting with us, we would love to have you. So if I could have you, anybody lift this up, because I only have the one hand. This has to be lifted up.
You got this in there?
Yes, wait. He's overzealous. He said we're gonna double, but we're gonna do, wait, so we're gonna take, so right now,
We'll
do you
stand
guys
for it
see?
there.
Oh, yeah. This is a big unit that was built for us. We're just gonna take these out, place it over. Wonderful, wonderful. So we're just gonna open that up and just spread it out. See, don't you love, see, Supervisor Hager gets his hands dirty. He supports organizations and he's not scared to do the work. And Caesar's gonna get dirty too, so I gotta get a shovel.
No
So, he,
problem.
so tell us, you,
I don't want this to fall on it.
please don't.
How long is this to take to compose?
So right now, our goal is to fill this up within the next few weeks. We'll have this filled up, but it's actually gonna take a couple of months to cure. That visually, each one of those holds about 50 pounds of food scraps. And so what we do is we partner with local restaurants and we pick up. So today I wouldn't make you do 500 pounds.
The new solid waste rules is starting to kick in this year. And eventually, in a couple more years for all the residentials, we all will be taking our different live scraps and working with the trash companies to bring it in to do different things with it. So is that something you're trying to partner up with Ontario?
Well, because our capacity is not that big. So what we'd like to do is only have fruits and vegetables, because when we have the meats and the different things, it creates different issues. So for us, these decompose a little faster. So that's what we've been focusing on. So again, that's as far as the manual label I'll ask you to do. We'll deal with the manure. We'll deal with the manure.
My list to do when I get home sometime today is all manual labor. So
Oh, okay, well, that's as far as it's gonna go for right now.
you want
Let's see, teamwork. So you got IHP working with them, and IHP was one of the first sponsors for us. They gave us collateral for our cooking workshops, manual support, and it doesn't stop. Look at this. Come on, teamwork makes the dream work. So that, anyone online, again, we compost every Thursday at 12 o'clock. So if you're interested in coming in to support that endeavor, that would be great. And then you have, sorry. So now we're going over to another area that represents collaboration. So this area, so I'm part of Health ERC steering committee. And so we have a compassionate committee portion of it. And then Ned Hart, she and I are both on that committee. And so even though it's different cities, this garden represents what collaboration looks like. We don't worry about, there's no barriers to participation. So what are you doing today?
I'm painting some rocks for our garden to brighten up the garden and bring some color. In addition to the natural color, we just bring some joy, some, help others, smile, grow love. Just, I'm a retired preschool teacher. So
Yes, she does.
so silly.
And any of the signs that you see throughout that are hand painted, she has created those with love and with a whole lot of support. Thank you, Nanette. So what you see right here, as we pass through, we have an outdoor sink, this area right there. But this is where we're prepping to do outdoor cooking. Every Saturday, our goal is to be able to prepare some type of meal for our resident participants. We do have a lot of primarily low-income unhoused. So I want them to not be concerned on certain days about food security. So you can help us. If you come down and you give us some sweat equity, help us to grow more. Or if you know how to work this pizza oven, because it's a good one, You can help us to do that. And then, so we're going to be a little quiet because do you see right here that this space, the benefits of gardening is one thing, but to have yoga in the garden, what a blessing. So Zena Carter from IEHP is facilitating an intro to meditation so the garden is fully being utilized. All right. So last but not least, we have the classroom. And I hope you guys can tell the garden is fully, look, it's fully developed with the efforts of, where's Augustine? So here is fellow master gardener Augustine Leyva, who did the design for the initial garden along with Bart Kennedy and amongst others. Do you want to say anything?
When it first was to what it is now, it's amazing. And I look forward to what it's going to be.
Excellent.
Beautiful concept. You have a wonderful idea.
Well, yes, we do. All right. So I want to introduce you to the first. Oh, Kurt, this young lady right here, when we ran our advertisement in the Ontario Living magazine, Jeanette was the first one to call me. And so what do you feel about the experience of being in the garden? Because Master Gardeners, you guys helped to create this. You helped to pour your expertise into this. Had I not met Maggie at Huerta, this wouldn't even be here without the Master Gardeners. But Jeanette, share with them and Supervisor Hagman what your feelings are about being here.
So I have a special connection to Mother Nature, and when I moved back to Ontario 2 years ago, I wanted to connect with catalog of the recreation parks for people going to make children with my family. And I found her ad. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to check this out because I think it's important to offer my kids fresh food from the garden to the table. And then I connected with Elizabeth, and I just learned so much about which veggies and herbs grow at which time of the season and so learning. But and also like kids at a young age to be able to explore, the plant and Mother Earth and enjoy and embrace it. So it means a lot to me to be able to have this space
And what are you growing?
with my family. So cabbage, cilantro. This is chamomile. And I'm trying to plant a basil, and I want to plant more herbs for like the teas and spices for the food as well. Yeah.
Excellent. All right.
Congratulations. This is your helpers.
Yeah.
It is, Ronnie. You've been with us for so long, First Five, and we're just so thankful. I want to give you an opportunity just to say, what does it feel like to see it going from bare to?
It's just, it has such beautiful growth and progress. Seeing the kids, every kid and every family, it's just like, it's not a split.
This garden covers the whole person full time. And I think that's the mission of a lot of partners here today, Supervisor Hagman, Anthem Trust, IEHP. That's a mission for a lot of us. It's a parallel mission for a lot of us for whole person care. So we can eat healthy and clean and exist in a healthy space. We can collaborate and change our lives by doing those things. So I am so pleased to see the garden, the Zen Garden. We have mental health aspect, we have yoga. It is so beautiful here. I'm so honored to be a part of this collaboration. As a guest here for the Seeds of Joy Community Garden, thank you so much for the tour and all that it offers here. And I will be putting in some sweat equity.
All right. And so then we have, Susan, was there anything you wanted to say in regards to seeing it in person now? To seeing, it's one thing, you write a check, you send us some collateral, you know that we're out here, but being in this space, what do you feel?
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome to see it. And it's awesome to see from the beginning
Mhm.
stages to how it's grown.
Yeah.
And I guess pun intended. But yeah, it's beautiful. It really is. And it's going to be great to even see it a year from now. It continues to grow and flourish and more people
Yes.
participating.
Yes.
And
Well-
if people wonder why a health plan would be involved, it makes complete sense. Health is more than just the clinical, but it's everything you're doing here, building community, bringing people together, wellness, emotional, mental, physical well-being, the yoga, the food, healthy. It's all connected. We're just honored and blessed to be a part of it. Thank
Oh,
you.
I'm so thankful that you've been a supporter, and we're glad that we're making you proud.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. So you see families interacting. This is what we did it for. October 2020, it was just a concept. And now here we are, a little over a year later, and it's come to fruition. So last but not least, we have two people. So we have Al Bowling, who's been with us in different capacities, and then Troy Mcswain, who is a sponsor. He's the most, okay, I'm sorry, Al, but Troy is the most handsome man I know because he's also my husband. So I chose well. But how do you feel about seeing it at this level now that we've grown, and
You're fulfilling your dream.
well, it's our dream. Yes, exactly. We're all helping people. So
It's amazing to see the progress that's been made over the last year in coalescing a community partnership with so many organizations, so many individuals. This couldn't have been done without the hard work and effort of so many people. And now we're just starting to see the fruits, or rather the vegetables and herbs of that labor. So, it's amazing to see the progress, and I appreciate being a part of it.
thank you. So I'm actually going to turn this back to me and say, because it's weird for me talking to the back. Right now, things are, it's winter, things are growing slowly, but they're growing. Relationships are being created. Someone said that you can measure social equity with a garden, and I challenge that because the residents feel safer, they're talking to each other, they're taking ownership of the space, and we did that because we all work together. So I know I still have a few more minutes. I'm not sure how this goes in regards to Q&A, but I just wanted to give you an opportunity to know that we still need support with Master Gardeners. We have a wait list for residents that want to participate. We would like to build some more. So anybody who wants to get their hands dirty, come on down. This is Maya right here. So she helps us to keep everything organized. And we're just so happy to be a part of the Master Gardener. Well, I'm so happy to be part of the Master Gardener program, and just wanted to show you what team building can do. We created a space for the community. I could have shared a PowerPoint, but I just thought that you would enjoy hearing directly from the participants. And there's something I didn't point out in regards to collaboration. Your trash might be somebody else's treasure. So when I visited the Chino Center, I want to say thank you, because it looks like it's trash. But guys, can you see that? I can't wait to be the vermicomposting queen. And Brittany's hit me. So, oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing your resources with us, because without being able to humble yourself and say, I need help, it wouldn't happen. So I'm letting you know I'm thankful for where we've come. There's a lot more to do. And we want us to be able to use this space again to share to share the passion of everyone involved. So I'm Elizabeth Mcswain, Executive Director of Caramel Connections Foundation. This would not happen without our volunteers like Dwayne had. And it's just an opportunity for us to give back. So Supervisor Hackman, did you want to say anything to these wonderful Master Gardeners? Because without them, truly, this wouldn't happen.
No, this is fantastic. And congratulations on just a beautiful asset for the community, and learn the skills that we should all have going for the future. And I'm here to learn a lot too. I'm talking to some of the folks that have their gardens here today and seeing what they can bring home. And it's wonderful. Thank you, Liz, for what you have done and your foundation has done to give this opportunity for our residents here in Ontario.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. All right, guys. So I respect time. It's 9:54. Maggie, I am doing this with my phone, not the computer, so it's a little different for me. So I can't see
That's
anything.
okay. Can you hear me, Elizabeth?
Yes, now I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Oh, it's just so wonderful. So exciting to see all the partners there, and Kurt and Deborah and Al and IHP, and so many more partners that came out today, and so many comments in the chat about how wonderful it is to make this visual connection to what gardens can be. And you just said it so well. It's all about partnering and partnerships. And Debbie was able to drop your email address in the chat. She shared the address of the garden. We do have one hand raised. If any, we can, let's see if we can try questions. Bridget, if you want to unmute, and if you have something you want to share. I know she grows tomato seedlings, so I'm wondering if she wants to share tomatoes with you guys.
We would love that, because what I failed to do, Bridget, we would love for you to come and teach us about how to grow tomatoes, because we're growing some. I didn't take you in this last space that I'm going to walk you in. So that was going to be this area, the outdoor classroom. And right now, as I walk in, I'll show you. So, you know, it's a learning year, but look what we already have some tomatoes coming in.
Excellent.
So just let me know. Anyone's interested in reaching out to me, 909-697-9017 is the best number to reach the nonprofit. Reach me, Elizabeth Mcswain or Maya Krim, and we will respond accordingly, but all help is welcome. If you want to facilitate a workshop, I know Maggie and I, we're going to put a calendar of events together, and I'm going to whisper, but I don't want to fail to mention that in the yoga area, if this young lady looks familiar, this is fellow Master Gardener too. So LaToya is here, and she's taking she's meditating with us today. So I'm going to be polite and walk away. But yeah. So Bridget, whenever you're ready, I look forward to hearing from you and partnering with you. And Ronnie saying goodbye. Everybody's just so thankful for the opportunity. And Mark,
Bridget, did you have anything more you want to add?
It's great that you have all these partnerships coming together. And I also think too that just a community feel continues to grow, no pun intended. So it's great to be a part of it. And I know Anthem feels grateful for the opportunity, and we're wanting to continue to do it and to have continued possible synergies maybe with other gardens in other parts of the community.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? That's why I wanted him to be the last voice. So this doesn't happen without funding. So you have Mark from Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shields saying that he wants to fund other gardens. So let Deborah know, let Debbie Schnorr know, let Maggie know, you know, or me, that if you needed support, I'll put you in contact with him, and hopefully he can help you how he's helping us. Again, sharing resources doesn't take away your ability to shine or grow. It just helps to shine a light on everyone. And that's our goal, is to make sure we amplify all of our partners, because it takes a village. Okay?
Exactly. Exactly, Elizabeth. I think we have over 636,000 households in the county and over 2 million residents. And so we need a garden everywhere. And so exactly, we will just amplify all of these effects and get gardens in everywhere. Elizabeth, do you have, I don't see any other questions in the chat, but Elizabeth, you're so inspirational to us all. And if you have
Maggie,
any,
you taught me. So Maggie, you planted the seed of joy for me. So, you know, you're always going to be special in my heart. I saw that there was one person who said they wanted to contact us in the comments. Unfortunately, I can't capture those. So Maggie, if you could send me anything in regards to interest list, I'll follow up as soon as possible.
we will definitely do that, Elizabeth. And thank you for planting these seeds of joy in our hearts today and in the communities and bringing all these partners together.
It's my pleasure. God bless everyone. Have a good day. Thank you for the opportunity to share. Thank you for your support. Whatever you've poured into this garden, it doesn't go unnoticed. If you want to come, we're open Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays to the public, but you would have access at any point if you had a particular project you wanted to help create over here. Okay.
Very good, Elizabeth. And then we have a short video that we're going to put in the chat, which is a beautiful video of you as well, and the garden as well. So we'll put that in the chat. And you guys, I'm jealous. I want to be out there in the garden, but we're going to enjoy the rest of our workshop. And you definitely brightened our day. So thank you, Elizabeth, and everybody who joined you today.
All right.
Thank you,
guys.
Elizabeth.
Take care.
Thank
Enjoy.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, we're going to drop the link for Elizabeth in the Elizabeth's video in the chat. And so exciting to see the potential partnerships. So many partnerships that the Master Gardener program has made through this garden. And the partnerships continue. We'll be sure to share the resources that Elizabeth talked about in a follow-up email later. And with that, I think we are ready to go on to, let's see here, our next presenter today is going to be Jackie Lacy, another amazing person who is working at Kimbark Elementary up in DeVore. She's the ed resource teacher, the environmental ed resource teacher, pardon me. And she's going to talk about engaging 21st century students. And she is a person that I met. All these things are connections that have fostered over many years. And if you haven't heard of agriculture in the classroom or ag in the classroom, she is someone I met there many years ago, and she just continues to wow me with all the great things she's doing. So I'm going to stop screen sharing, Jackie, and then I think I made you a co-host. Are we sharing your PowerPoint, or are you going to share? There you go. Look at she's ready to go. Okay, Jackie, if you don't need anything else from me, I'm going to mute myself and let you take it away.
All right, I'll just show myself so everybody can see me. Hi.
There she is.
I am here. Okay, let's see, minimize that. And let me go into presentation mode here so you don't see all my other little stuff. Where am I? There we go. All right, everybody can see okay? So we're going to talk about, awesome. Well, I wish that I was in my garden because Elizabeth just blew me away this morning. But I'll share a little bit of insight into the 21st century learner and how environmental education is a benefit to those students and the benefits of environmental education. So here I am. I'm the environmental education resource teacher at Kimbark Elementary School. We are a environmental education magnet school. And what that means is our focus at the school is environmental. And we bus in approximately 90% of our students from the inner city of San Bernardino to Kimbark Elementary, which is located in DeVore. What this does for the students is it gets them up to our school where we have amazing teachers, but we also have our environmental education component, and that's me. The students see me about once a week, a little bit more here or there depending on special projects and grade level. I teach TK, which is our transitional kindergarten, or pre-K, what we used to call in the old days, through 6th grade. And I see each group of students for about an hour a week. So when I see them, I give them a combination of their next generation science standards and environmental education standards. So what does that look like? Well, if you are learning about habitats in kindergarten, this week we were talking about the animals and how they survive in their environment. And then we did a blubber activity where the students had to stick their hands in ice water and also in a container of Crisco in the water to tell the difference in how the animals are able to insulate. And then we were like, how can we keep warm? So it kind of just extend it that way. Let's see. About me, well, I got my environmental education degree at Cal State San Bernardino back in the day. Dr. Darlene Stoner, Dr. Darlene Stoner was the professor up there. So I have a degree in environmental education, and I have been at Kimbark for 26 years. And this is my 12th year as the environmental education resource teacher. These are my amazing family members. My husband's a math teacher. My son is currently at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and he is pursuing a degree in agriculture. And my daughter is a junior in high school, and her passion is animal science. And both of them went to Kimbark as well. So I'm hoping that they got a little taste for outdoor education and being involved in the environment from that experience. So why is environmental education important? There are so many reasons why it's important, but I will tell you that it does promote critical and creative thinking. It engages students in their communities. It increases empathy for others, not just for the environment and wildlife, but also for people. There are studies that increases test scores for our students, and it also teaches sustainability, which is a huge component. I want students to leave Kimbark and not just forget what we've learned, but to take it with them to middle school and high school and on into their communities and into the world. That's our goal. So it is very important to teach these kind of activities with our students. So the 4 C's of the 21st century learner are critical thinking, creative thinking, collaboration, and communication. And most employers now say that these are the skills that students or employees are lacking. And so we're trying really hard to start teaching these at the elementary level so that by the time they get to their upper education and college, they have a firm foundation in what these look like and how to apply these in their higher learning and once they're employed out in the real world. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of these and give you some examples of how I use these at Kimbark. So critical thinking really is being able to problem solve. It's being able to look at something and analyze it, question it, judge it, and even be skeptical of it. So really thinking deeply about our thinking. Students need to be able to look at problems in new ways and link learning across subject areas. So it's not just environmental education, but once we learn something in environmental, let's say we're recycling, and then they're able to look at those numbers in a mathematical sense, or they're able to research and look up data and then share that information with their classmates and why it's important. So really thinking deeply. A lot of times we're just hitting the surface area. We're looking at just like what we're summarizing. We're not really digging deep. And so we're really trying to encourage our students to start digging deeper in their learning and their thinking. So some of the ways that we do that at Kimbark is we do a lot of problem solving. You can see my classroom, and these guys are part of a 5th grade class. This is just one of the activities that we start with for both critical thinking and collaboration. But I give them some problems and they have to really spend some time discussing and deciding how they're going to solve the problem. In this one, it's a really easy, fun activity. They have to look at a picture and they have to recreate that picture exactly. And at first they're like, oh, this took me 2 seconds to do. But then I come over and I say it's not correct. They have to really think about what they're doing in order to move on to the next problem that they would have. So the students are all in centers in this activity. They have to talk about it, and then they have to kind of apply some critical thinking to recreate the structures. And this is all found objects. My room is a storeroom of stuff that I cannot throw away. So we have lots of things that we can recreate for problem solving activities. Some other things we did with 2nd grade, we talked about dinosaurs and we learned what it meant to be a paleontologist, and we learned about what happened to the dinosaurs, how to protect animals in nature, and they really had to start thinking like a paleontologist. And then we went outside and we went through the actions of digging up a dinosaur. So this is just our playground, and they had to be very methodical and careful. It was amazing to see how quiet the students were, but also watching them apply the skills that they had learned for what the dinosaur or the paleontologists did for their profession. So they have little paintbrushes, and they have their little flags to indicate that there might be something there. And they just had to be very slow and think about what they were doing. And then they had time to debrief afterwards what it was like to be in that role. On the other side, we have scientific method. This is something we are huge at Kimbark, and we do a lot with. And I got to tell you, if you want to teach your kids, your grandkids about the real world, go through the scientific method with them. Find a project, do something in your garden where you can come back and apply those skills, because them having to come up with a hypothesis, do the research, perform the experiments multiple times, and then communicate their results, there is nothing like it. I tell my students, we start this formal process in 4th grade, although kinder through 3rd grade also does some kind of condensed versions. I tell my students, you will be so prepared for the real world, because that's kind of how life is. You go out and you look at something like maybe something's dying in the garden, or maybe your compost pile isn't working quite right. Or maybe you're noticing that your animal your pet, your dog is not responding the way you want it to. You go out and you make some calculated adjustments until you get the result you're looking for. You do some research. Those are all things in the scientific method. So our students go away very prepared for the world around them. So scientific method is amazing. And the kids always kind of groan, but I always tell them that their brains are growing in ways that they won't even know until they get older. So these are just amazing activities that we can do inside and outside of the classroom. As far as the garden is concerned, on one side, you're going to see a lot of weeds. This is something that my students came up with. They just noticed that outside of our garden, there were so many weeds and that it was really ugly. So they decided and made their own day. They talked to me, and we partnered with their teachers to make sure it was okay for the release time. And we had our permission slips to be off campus, even though we're right next to campus. And they partnered with a resident who lived across the street, so that they were able to dump all of the weeds and the waste into her dumpster. And it was a beautification project, but they really thought about ways that they could make a difference. What were the benefits of this project? How could they just help both the school and the neighborhood? So I thought that was kind of an interesting one. And the other picture, you see the kids taking care of our garden. This was a few months ago, back when it was a little bit warmer. And they just were really trying to figure out what was the best way to keep pests out of the garden, what was the best planting, why were things dying. We tried to grow some cucumbers on trellis there, and you'll notice that it didn't really work. So we spent a lot of time kind of digging deeper into what would be our next step. How can we have a better outcome? And it's just a good talking piece for the students. The next area is creativity. And this is just probably the funnest part for the kids, because they love to brainstorm. They love to share their ideas. They're becoming more comfortable with refining their ideas. So we always say there's things like, oh, epic fail, and it's okay to fail, because that gives us a chance to grow and come up with some new ideas. Creativity also lends itself to accepting other people's ideas. So our students are able to really look at someone else's idea and decide how can they put all their ideas together. And it lends itself to innovation and invention. And if you don't know the difference between innovation and invention is something that someone creates, and innovation changes the way that we do things. So we're really trying not just to create something, we're trying to innovate something. So for instance, a computer is an invention. Apple and what the creators of the Apple devices have done is they have innovated technology. And something that's really interesting, I went to an innovation conference years ago, and there was a professor from a school in an Asian country. And she said that the interesting thing is that while the Asian countries are very good at inventions and making things, they have a different level of innovation. And so the United States is at the top in the category of innovation, just because we have a little bit more free thinking about things. So we're trying really hard to help our students learn how to come up with new ideas that can change the way that things are done in the classroom, in the environment, at school, in their homes. So that's where creativity comes in. There is a really cool book by Fran Soren, and I have the link at the end for all of you. But this person says, play with dirt, play with ideas, play with new projects, play with possibilities every single day of your life. And that really is the basis of creativity. If you ever watch students and you just give them things, it is amazing what they can come up with. This garden is a space that we use, and we're hoping to partner with our master gardeners to create kind of a native garden space. But we have this amazing platform. It goes all the way around a giant pine tree. Even in the summer, this is a nice, cool space for us to go. And the students had to take found objects on the ground, and they had to create an environment for an animal, habitat for an animal. Everything had to represent food, shelter, water, and space. And they had to create it in such a way that their pretend animal could exist in this habitat. So each group then had to present and explain the parts of the habitat. And then when we were done with the activity, everything went back on the ground so that the next group if we had another group, could come in and use those same found objects. The kids loved this activity. They loved just being able to go about the garden space, find things that they would like to use, and be creative. And they got to choose their partners, which they liked as well. So fun, fun, fun. How can we incorporate creative thinking into environmental education? Definitely innovate, teaching students to create new ideas through hands-on activities. We use the engineer and design process often. This could look like giving them a bunch of trash and having them create some kind of new device or technology that they could use in the classroom, or perhaps market someday later. We're hoping that we can get our students to start thinking about future jobs in environmental education. Habitat building, so we saw that one where they use found objects to create a habitat. Student videos, we have a group of students right now, they're called our KELP Club, that stands for Kimbark's Environmental Leadership Program. And they are currently working on creating some videos to show the rest of our students how to recycle, take care of our animals, contests, etc. In the past, they would actually create a presentation that they would go into classrooms and share with students. Currently, because of kind of social distancing practices, we aren't quite allowed to do that. So they are right now working on videos, which they will be able to share with students. We have video equipment at our school. We have a green screen, but honestly, your cell phone is an amazing video device, and you can get just a little tripod, and you can create any videos you want. You can edit them in iMovie, and then you can share them with your organization too. It's kind of how I do some of my videos showing animals and whatnot. In fact, I'll make sure to give you that link too. If you want to look at the Kimbark YouTube channel, you can see some of the videos that we've created with our animals and kind of field trip experiences. In gardening, oh my gosh, I mean, the kids use creative thinking to talk about life cycles, composting, garden management, food chain. We go into the garden and we talk about all kinds of things. We have them find all kinds of things. They become investigators. It's just some things that they really enjoy doing in the garden. And why not? Why do we need a paper and a pencil when we can go out into the garden and find real life evidence of the things that are happening in our natural world? And recycling. Our students create posters, public service announcements. They help with sorting, and they help just by having contests and just doing their best to try to keep those natural resources out of the landfill. So those are all ways that you can incorporate creative thinking into your environmental education. So we have a couple contests that we do every year. We do some environmental contests where you can make things out of recycled materials. That is a fun one. We've had so many cool things. We've had people make little pots out of magazines and newspaper. We've had just some, I still have some where I have an old tissue box that the students made into a way to store my plastic bags. It is amazing. We build solar ovens just so that they can see how the sun is a great way to conduct thermal energy. And we have our cute little animals, and the kids love to care for these guys. This is Honey Bunny. She is a mini lop rabbit that we adopted from the San Bernardino County Museum during the beginning of COVID in 2020. They had to rehome some of their animals. And so Honey now is my right-hand rabbit. The kids love her, and she spends her time in the classroom and at home with me. So she likes to roam around the house as well. The next is collaboration, and this is a huge, huge, huge one. I just really feel like, you know, when you, there's a quote there, reasoning is forged into talk. You know, when the students have to get together and work on a project and you help them understand how important it is to be able to work with others, you just get so much more done. So this is such an important skill right now that so many of our kids come out of college and they really do not have the skills to collaborate. They're ready to work, but they have no idea that they actually have to work together in a group with people. So we want to make sure that we are preparing our students now for working, you know, in the future. These guys are working on a project together, and what they decided to do is they decided to take a quadrant of the paper to make their own idea, and then they would put their ideas together in the final project. So we work a lot on disagreeing appropriately. It's one of our PBIS skills. And if you're not sure what PBIS skills are, they're basically teaching students problem-solving skills that they can use to get along with other people. I sometimes will give them sentence frames if they're not quite sure how to formulate their thoughts, so that they can be respectful in their communication. Let's go on here. Okay. It just helps them to share their differences and their similarities. We help them learn how to choose new learning partners. So sometimes I let them choose their own groups. Sometimes I choose their groups for them. Sometimes it's random, but it really is teaching them how to get along with others and finish a task. They have to be able to finish a task. They have to, they know that I'm only the facilitator. I am not going to help them. And they really need to learn how to draw on each other's strengths. Super important. So how does this look? So you'll see that they're collaborating on their projects. We also have, this is a picture from our trash-a-lanterns, and the students had to work in groups. They had to decide what kind of trash they were going to put into their pumpkin. We buried these pumpkins back in October, and we will not dig them up until Earth Day. And they ask me every day, is today the day we're going to dig up our pumpkins? No, we're not. So the nice thing about this is they worked on this project together. We'll dig it up together. And then I cannot wait to see what we find in there. We're going to have so much critical thinking to see what is composted and what is still there. And hopefully that will really help them understand the importance of, recycling, reducing, and reusing the things that we have around us, for sure. Just another picture, you see our kids there again. Here we have kids that are making some vermicomposters, and then we have the picture of the kids collaborating on their habitats. Another way that we kind of tie in all of our skills is something called Odyssey of the Mind. And our kids are amazing. This is kind of a problem-solving program. It's actually something that you can find nationally. We do it at a regional level, and we've gone to the state. This is one of our groups that went to the state level. And our students always pick an environmental component. So these are our little sushi. You see our sushi there and our sous chef. And basically they have to come up with the whole program themselves. They have to create their skit, their lines. They have to create all of their own costumes. They have to keep it all within a certain amount of money. And the only thing that the teachers can help them on is things that are dangerous. So cutting or gluing or sewing, things that the students might be dangerous to the students. So these guys had to come up with the entire skit, and they did it through the environmental lens, which was, it's pretty awesome, I think, that they would choose that, because it's up to them to choose their own skit. So this kind of ties in all of those: critical thinking, communication, creativity, and collaboration. We have kids that are out on a hike, and they are brainstorming some ideas based on what their naturalists have asked them to do. And then we have our little guy here who is helping us with our composting efforts. And the last skill that's really important is communication. It's sharing information. So teachers help students connect with each other in the world around them. That's our job. That's our job. You know, in the old days, we just got up there and disseminated information, direct instruction, and that is just not the case anymore. Now the students really have to come up with their own learning while we facilitate. It's not that we leave them high and dry. It's that we give them questions to ponder. We give them activities to help them synthesize the new information. So you see our kiddos packing their pumpkins there with their trash, the things that they wanted to include. And the other kids are just kind of hanging out and discussing what we were doing in this activity. It enriches our experiences in the classroom and outdoors. So with our TKers, I have so many little puppets and things in my classroom. The TKers had to choose an animal, and then we talked about what do the animals need to live in their environment. So the kids came up with all kinds of things: food and water and a place, a nest. And then we extended it like well, how can we make sure that they have the things that they need in their environment? And it's interesting that 4 and 5-year-olds still understand that, you know, we have to be careful with the things that we do. We need to pick up trash, and we need to keep them safe, and we can make a bird bath, or we can put out, you know, food like bird seed for our birds. And it's very interesting to see what they come up with. And we let them play too. There's always playtime in there too. We want to make sure that they have some time to play with the animals, and then they become a scientist. And then they're very serious about it. And the other side here, we did some outdoor education. This is the Wildlands Conservancy. So the students are really talking about the pond environment and how they can keep the ponds clean and what they are noticing about the ponds. And some of the things that we've done that really encompass all of our skills of the 4 C's are some musicals. I'm like the Weird Al Yankovic of elementary school. I can't help it. I'll hear a song, and next thing I know, I'm singing about something that has to do with the environment. So we have actually written a couple of different musicals with the help of the students. The students will research something, like one of our groups in 3rd grade researched Wangari Maathai, and she, you know, replanted trees in her village in Africa. They learned all about her, and then they helped write a song, and then they made up their own dance moves, and then they performed for our school in a play. That was for a television time machine, which kind of helped us look at adversity in the world, and then how people made a difference. We also did Recycle the musical, which talks about different things in the environment. We had Mother Nature and the Wise Old Owl in that one. The students came up with all of the lines for that musical again, and then the words for the songs, and they danced and made up dance moves. And then Rainforest Rock, that is our current musical. It was supposed to be for the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. Still, we have not performed that one just because of COVID, but the students wrote all of the lyrics. They researched things for all of the different aspects of the rainforest. And I'm hoping that at some point we're going to be able to put that one together. This is Sunshine. I'm almost out of time here. So this is Sunshine. She is our California desert tortoise. She is probably about, I don't know, 65, 70 years old. She was my great aunt's tortoise. She got her as a baby when she was teaching, and then I inherited her when my aunt downsized. The kids absolutely love her. And I just wrote this quote: "The real world is the best place to engage students, increase learning, and to encourage them to make a difference in the future." I really feel like that's my job. I want them to understand that the environment is there for them to use and to enjoy. But if each of them makes little changes to the way that they do things on a daily basis, they can make a huge difference. And then I encourage them to go out and share that information with their families and their communities. And hopefully these will be our future leaders. So you can find me. Here's my email address, and also my website for the Keep Room, if you are so inclined to visit. There's another picture of Sunshine. She is amazing. And if you ask anyone, they will tell you after spending a few minutes with Sunshine, she really gets you. She understands, and she is the best listener ever. I have given you the resources that I've used. Kim Bark was actually featured in a book many, many moons ago by Richard Louv, and on nature deficit disorder. I put that link in there as well if you would like to visit any of the websites that I used for research and for this presentation. And I'm very thankful for partnering with the Master Gardeners and with Maggie and Debbie. And I'm looking forward to any way I can help with you guys as well.
Thank you so much, Jackie, for sharing. We really appreciate it. We'll make sure we share those links, and As I was listening to you, I was like, you've innovated the way I think about the 4 C's. So you're awesome. And I really love the specific examples you provide because it's always challenging to know how to work with kiddos and environmental education in the garden. So I loved your examples. I want to be in your classroom. I want to hang out with your right-hand rabbit, and you're definitely growing the future of our healthy planet right there. So thank you so much. And I love to see Devore is an amazing community where people help in all different aspects, delivering dirt, moving dirt, helping with taking the weeds, all different kinds of things. So beautiful to see that community come together. So when we get into our breakout sessions, then you guys will have an opportunity to ask Jackie questions and to share with her as well. So next, I want to introduce our next speaker from the Upland Unified School District Farm to School program. We have Cassidy Fernari, and she is the Farm to School program manager. So welcome, Cassidy, and thank you again, Jackie. I am going to stop sharing, and I believe, Debbie, are you going to Debbie, or maybe if Cassidy wants to pull up her screen, however you guys want to do that.
Yeah, I can pull up the presentation for Cassidy.
That would be great. Thank you so much, Debbie. Can everyone hear me? I'm working from 2 separate devices. Okay. So I am also at one of my gardens today, actually a garden to be. We are doing a volunteer project building the garden with our middle school students at Upland Junior High School. This was supposed to be last weekend, but we had the really strong winds in Upland, and we just didn't feel safe having students on campus. And I'm looking this way because this is where my slides are. So, all right, well, I'm very excited to get started. Thank you so much for having me.
Can everybody see the presentation just before you start, Cassidy?
Yes.
I just want to make sure.
Yep, looking good.
Okay.
We can see it, and we can hear you, Cassidy. It looks
All right,
like we're
great.
all engines going.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much again, Debbie, for sharing those slides. And actually, we have a special announcement, and that is that Debbie Schnoor has actually started with our Farm to School program as the Farm to School program assistant. Her first day was on Wednesday, and we are paying for that position through a Cdfa grant. And I'll kind of get into that a little bit as we go forward. So like I said, I am at a volunteer event for the students. So I won't be able to join the breakout rooms, but I'm going to make sure you all get my email and work cell phone number. So if you have questions for me, I would be happy to answer those. I just need to get back out there with the kids when I'm done here. And that being said, I'll go ahead and get started. So yes, my name is Cassidy Fernari, Farm to School program manager. It says coordinator on this slide. I recently was promoted to the program manager in October. And I forgot to update that part. So I've been with Upland Unified for a little over about 3.5 years. I started as an intern while I was in my master's program at Cal Poly Pomona, and I was studying regenerative studies up at the Lyle Center. And from there, we just kind of, I got really successful with the grant writing, really lucky in a lot of respects because grant writing is difficult, and those big grants from like USDA Farm to School are very competitive. And so we were able to keep me on full-time as a coordinator, also with help from the Randall Lewis Foundation. Randall Lewis donated money to fund my position. And then just this past October, we went through the year-long motions of getting this position paid for by LCAP funding and funding through our nutrition services department. So it's been kind of like a long road, but it's nice to be sitting in a position now where funding my own position is not a concern for me, and I'm able to just really focus on our 14 schools, which I've listed here. We have gardens at 11 of these 14 schools. We are building the 12th garden today at Upland Junior High, and we have 2 more schools that we will be building gardens in before the end of the school year. We also have a couple gardens that we will be doing some total remodel on just because they're older, and we're kind of moving into a little bit more of an outdoor classroom idea with our gardens, excuse me. And so that's, we kind of want to tweak our gardens a little bit and mold them into an outdoor classroom space as opposed to just spaces to grow. So here I have a picture of Cabrillo Elementary, and this is an idea of having a garden space where we grow fruits and vegetables, but also an outdoor classroom space. We have some tree stumps for students to do circle time at, which is a really big piece of that school's community. And we have some benches, and that existing rose garden is actually a teacher memorial for a teacher that had passed away. So like I said, we have Debbie that just started this week. We are super lucky and super excited to have Debbie. This program has pretty much been me for the past 3 years. And so it's really nice to have a permanent person here for the next year and a half, at least, hopefully longer, depending on funding. And so just really excited for that. And I also have 2 food corps service members, Lavina and Cattell, and they are at 4 of our elementary schools. So next slide, please. Okay, just a little bit more about the team. Like I said, I came from Cal Poly Pomona Lyle Center Regenerative Studies program. Before that, I was at University of Laverne studying environmental biology. Lavina is from University UC Riverside, and she was studying sustainability. Cattell studied food studies, and Debbie has a very long, impressive, wonderful resume. And I was connected with her through Food Corps, as well as through Master Gardeners. So next slide, please. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about how we actually approach the idea of building a school garden. So I am from the district level. I have, I don't technically have a position at the schools. So I wanted to get away from the idea of coming in and just putting like a cookie cutter garden in each of the schools. I wanted to really mold the schools or mold the school gardens to match the school community and match the school goals and resources. I always try to get to know the school community a little bit, the admin, the students, the teachers, the parents, because I believe that the most successful gardens come from a community idea. And the more that we include our community into the gardens, the more sustainable they'll be. So usually how that looks is I go into a school, I let them know that through Farm to School, we have funding for school gardens. And I kind of just sit down with the admin and ask them, what is your school community like? You know your school better than anybody. What are your kids like? Do you have reading goals? Do you have social emotional learning goals? Which the previous slide, when I showed Cabrillo Elementary, that circle time is really important within their school community and culture. So that's a very common thing that most classes do at that school daily. So we wanted to mimic that in the garden so that it's a place where the students and the classes can actually do that in the garden. So like I said, what we're providing for the district is really more of an outdoor classroom. So we provide outdoor classrooms to host extended educational opportunities based on Common Core curriculum. So of course, if you're familiar with Food Corps, you know that their lessons are based on Common Core curriculum. We also try to do that with all of our garden clubs. And all of our schools that have gardens also have a garden club attached to them. So that's another thing, is I don't want to come into the school and not provide resources for that garden and for that school. I want to come into the school and it's the whole deal. So they get the garden, they get the garden program. We continue to take care of the garden. We continue to support a garden club. And so it's really ideal for us to be able to come in and have that connection with the admin and that trust of the school community before we even break ground. From there, we have really developed a great relationship with our maintenance and operations team, and we have them come in and help us break ground, help us do some underground irrigation work. And then really we try to connect the community, like I said, the school community through volunteer days as much as possible with the actual building of the garden. Once we have the garden up and running and we have those garden clubs going, we do, of course, grow organic seasonal produce for students and their families. We are a community food producer in San Bernardino County. All of our schools are registered as community food producers. And so everything that we grow in the gardens, we are able to serve in our cafeterias to our students. So we will oftentimes put oranges on the salad bar, persimmons. We have gotten really into taste tests. So just this past year, thankfully being back from COVID, we're able to connect with the students a little bit more with produce from the garden. But just this past year, we made guacamole with avocados, and we served it in a cafeteria on the day where the students were having burritos. So we served it as a side to the burritos. We harvested a bunch of basil, which I think I saw Linda Bratz Brown in here. Is she in here? I think I did. Linda has been an amazing help. Oh, there she is. Linda's amazing, and Linda helps at Foothill Knolls STEM Academy in the garden. She was part of building the garden at Foothill Knolls STEM Academy, and her granddaughter goes there. And so we harvested a bunch of basil, and my team turned it into pesto, and we did a taste test with that as well. We just recently did a taste test of fresh squeezed orange juice at our farm to school field day, and I'll talk about some of those events in a second. And so really what we're trying to do is connect the students with the produce as much as possible. So I added in that we connect the families with the produce as well, because we had a long time during COVID where we couldn't have taste tests and we didn't have a salad bar. So we were actually making produce bags, and I know a lot of our school gardens were doing this, in Southern California, but we were making produce bags to send out to the families. So I have a picture here of just an example of what we sent out, some lettuce, some cabbage, some herbs, some citrus from just all of our school gardens, because we wanted to make sure that we didn't stop production during that time for both our community's health as well as our garden's health. And we were very lucky in Upland to be able to continue to access the school gardens. I know that a lot of schools didn't have that capability, so we were very lucky that we were still able to garden. And finally, we also provide a space for community and family education and engagement. I've put our YouTube and our Instagram, especially during COVID, we did a lot over YouTube and Instagram. We also have a farm to school website that we're working on, where we want to make our lessons and our curriculum available to the students and their families. We do cooking demonstrations. We do a recap most Fridays of what we've done that week. During COVID, we did like story time, and we've been doing our YouTube from our original service members through Food Corps. We've been doing that for about 3 years, but the Instagram, we recently started to get more of a following. We have a goal of 1,000 followers by the end of the school year. I think we're just around 750 right now. So that's the hope. It's really, it was interesting for us to have to shift to social media. So because I am barely on my own Instagram, and so it was really interesting to have to now be on the work Instagram every day. But it's really a great way to connect with our families, which I'm sure most of you know. Another thing that we are doing at the schools, like I mentioned previously, is our new farm to school field days. So at 5 of our elementary schools, we were awarded funding from Action for Healthy Kids. And part of what we're doing with that is we are doing a farm to school field day where students get to connect with a local farmer. We get to connect with the mobile dairy classroom, and we also do some field day activities. So it was a really great success at our first elementary school. We have one coming up on February 8th. We're switching up our activities. We're switching up our farmer. So we'll see how that goes. And then we have 3 more after that to kind of also make those changes and see what works for the schools. Let me see. Yes, also with the family education and engagement, we do support cooking lessons. We support students that want to come in from local community or local colleges and do parent engagement and parent cooking lessons and studies with our parents. So we try to connect them with the community as much as possible. We're doing a stress management and eating course in about a month in partnership with our support services staff. And we also did the King Arthur baking with our families during COVID. Next slide, please. Okay, so I touched on this a little bit more, but one of the things I think I'm most proud of and most excited for in our program is always the taste tests. And that's because we're really able to connect the students again with their produce, but more specifically with the idea that food is grown on a farm or in a garden and then has to be, turned into something or has to be presented in a way. I think a lot of our students, especially now during COVID, it's the prepackaged burritos in the cafeteria, it's the chicken nuggets. And so it's really important for students to still make that connection with the taste tests and with the, still make that connection with the produce that's actually being grown. And also it gives them a little bit of an idea of how hard it is to grow produce and how much our farmers work and how hard they work to grow our food. So this is another taste test we had, and we did an eggplant dip, and we grew the eggplant, the garlic, the onions, the basil, the tomatoes in the garden. And so that was at the high school. The students were super excited about that. And then I stuck this picture in here at the bottom left of a taste test we did. And we had, at that specific taste test, almost, I think 85% of the students try the taste test. And it was just red apple versus green apple. But it was really interesting to see how excited the kids were to give their opinion. And that's also another thing that we're really excited about in Farm to School, is to connect students with their cafeteria. So we want students to know that their input about what they're eating and what they're choosing to eat in the cafeteria is also up to them. We don't want them to think that they just have to come in and eat whatever we're serving. It's also up to them. So I also mentioned that we put our produce on the salad bar. So this is like purple and green broccoli and carrots, radishes, and assorted citrus that we've put on the salad bar over the past few years. And we also did, before COVID, we were steaming our green beans and putting them in our chicken teriyaki bowls. So that was another way to, of course, increase the student fruit and vegetable consumption, but also, like I said, in nutrition services and the cafeterias, students are our customers, and we want them to keep coming, and we want them to keep buying, not buying now, but getting the school lunches. And so we want them to feel like if they don't like something, they can tell us. And if they really like something, they can tell us. Next slide, please. Okay, so another thing we want to do is planning for sustainability of our gardens. I already mentioned that one of the ways that we plan for sustainability in the gardens at the school level is by having volunteer days and connecting the community and the school community with their garden. So giving them agency over that space, giving the students agency over that space, making them care about the space. So it's not something that we just put in and then they never see us again and they just have to kind of figure it out from there. We are working on, it is kind of like within my 3-year plan, to train interested teachers in taking care of their garden, train them in some garden club lessons, and just kind of give them even more of that agency, not because I don't want to go and help the schools, but because I think it's just that much more powerful if it's ingrained in the school culture that there is a school garden on campus. We are a farm to school school. I think that's really important. Like I said, also during school closures, we handed out all of our produce that we grew. We continued to upload content to social media, and we provided online learning resources. And this got our parents really excited. A lot of the parents, it's not all the time that the kids come home and tell their parents what they did at school that day. If they had garden club, if they had food corps, so when the parents were actually able to see what we were doing in the gardens during break or during COVID closure, really, and then get to taste a piece of that by taking the produce home. We had parents contacting us like, when will my student get a school garden at their school? And I'm like, okay, we're a small team, we're getting there. But it was really exciting for me actually to see the parents that excited about it, that they were ready. When can I volunteer with my kids' garden? When, the kids aren't in school right now, can we come do the school garden? Can we come help you take care of it during the closure? So that was really, I think, like grabbed our parents' attention. And then I also mentioned that we make sure to include our maintenance and operation team every step of the way. We also want to continue to have a great relationship with them. We don't want them to feel like we're putting in a space that they then need to maintain. We actually have a relationship with our grounds team that we pay their overtime through grant funding when they come in and help us prep the gardens, like in the top left corner. So you can imagine having the tractor there removes the sod a lot quicker. And that's another way that we plan for sustainability, is by really actually prepping the site for sustainability. So completely removing the sod, Then we lay down landscape fabric, and then we'll lay down a substrate, most likely decomposed granite. And then we will do the garden beds with usually another layer of landscape fabric underneath the soil. And that's just our way of planning for the actual physical sustainability of the space. And I'm happy to report that we've been keeping up on our gardens, but also I'm confident that if we took a month off, our gardens wouldn't be just completely overrun with weeds. And we do have one garden that's having that issue, which is one of the ones that we're just going to completely restart because something's not clicking there. And we want to make sure that we are planning for that sustainability as well, keep them looking nice. Here's our Instagram handle. You guys are welcome to follow us and kind of see what we have going on. And next slide, please. I just want to touch on how did we fund this program when the first dollar of funding we got from the district was in October. So I mentioned that I started here in August 2018. Leading up to that point, the Randall Lewis Foundation had paid for part-time interns from Cal Poly Pomona, specifically the College of Environmental Design. And they were working about 10, 12 hours a week, doing a good job sustaining the current couple gardens. They actually built a new garden. So that was, we were very grateful to Randall Lewis for that money. When I started in August 2018, we wanted to expand, right? And you can't, it goes both ways, right? So you can have $100,000 to build gardens, but you have to pay somebody to build them. And you can have money to pay somebody, but you have to have money to buy the supplies, right? So a lot of garden grants, and I'm sure you all know this, do one or the other. They'll either give you money to pay for supplies, but you can't use it on staffing, or a local donor will give you money to pay for staffing, but won't give you money to pay for supplies. So we really had to get into grant writing very quickly. I had a little bit of experience with grant writing when I started, mostly to fund my master's thesis, but not to the extent that I had to just like apply to every grant I saw, mostly just for practice. But like I said, we were really grateful and lucky to be awarded a USDA farm to school grant. And that allowed me to come on as a full-time employee for a year. And in that year, we built 4 more school gardens. And it was like, okay, like we can have a garden in every school. This is attainable. And so really we just kept applying for grants. So we applied for Sprouts grants, Whole Foods grants, Lowe's Toolbox of Education, which was a great grant that I believe they've discontinued at this point. Action for Healthy Kids, Walmart, California Fertilizer Foundation. We applied to everything we possibly could. And so then we got to the point where last year we had 10 school gardens built. We were working on the last 4, planning them, buying the supplies. We kind of got a little behind, obviously, because of COVID. And I went to my supervisor and I was like, I need help. Like, we need another employee in the farm to school program. Like, I cannot continue to teach 8 garden clubs a week. I can't take care of 10 gardens. So obviously we have Food Corps, which is an amazing help, but I was like, I still think we could do so much more in our district if A, I didn't have to worry about grant funding for my position, and B, we had another person in this team. So we applied for and got the Cdfa grant, which, like I mentioned, is paying for our wonderful new position, the Farm to School Program Assistant that Debbie is now in. I cannot wait. I already, after just having Debbie for a couple days, was like, wow, the fact that we like just having this extra person is going to really expand our program and really make us very successful. And so I've already talked to Cdfa and Farm to School and given them my feedback of how important it is to be able to pay for staffing with garden grants. And you know, they took it well because we did get some staffing funding through our initial grants, but it really is this very delicate line of like not having too much money for supplies because you want to be very pointed with what you're buying. You don't want to have to overspend just because you have the money, and also having money to pay your staff. And the last thing I'll say is if you are working in a school district, I know that the LCAP journey and the journey to be funded by the district is really daunting and scary. Like I said, it took us over a year, but it in the end became so worth it and so important to us because now, like I said, I don't have to worry about finding funding for my specific position. I can just come into work and finish our projects, come up with new projects, support our students, support our schools and our staff. And so I would be happy, like I said, if you are starting that journey with your district, I would be happy to help you because it's a lot of work, but it really makes all the difference. And yes, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you all so much for having me. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to put my email in the chat because I won't be here for the breakout rooms. And I really want to chat with anybody who's interested. But yes, just thank you to everyone involved. And it's been really nice to talk to you all today.
Cassidy, that was amazing. And we really appreciate you having us join. I really loved the idea of school gardens shifting and growing with the needs and wanting to create these outdoor education spaces between COVID and just what we know is right. Then that is where we need to be. And also love the idea of connecting the students to the cafeteria. I'm so delighted today that we had a community garden sort of perspective, an individual school perspective, and then took it up to the district-wide level and had that perspective. And I hope that more districts will definitely add this layer of support to school gardens, because we have about 200 master gardeners in our county, but it's not enough. And so I really, Cassidy, your school district is a model, an example for school districts everywhere to see how important this is. And for those of you guys who are community garden partners, then you know, these ideas can be used to work with kids in community garden spaces too. Are there any burning questions for Cassidy? I know Debbie can help a little bit during the breakout sessions, but any burning questions for Cassidy before she goes back out and plays in the garden? And if you want, you can unmute yourself, but she also provided her contact information, or if you'd like to put anything in the chat, feel free. I'm going to pull up my screen again. And if anybody's got anything for Cassidy before she goes, go for it. But thank you so much, Cassidy, for joining us.
Thank you very much again.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and move on. I didn't hear anybody unmute. Debbie, I don't see anything in the chat. Okay, so thank you again, Cassidy. And if you're still typing, then between Debbie and Cassidy's email, we'll make sure we get that information to you. So we're almost wrapping up. Thank you. We're almost wrapping up our great day today, but we got our breakout sessions. And what we're going to do is we have, I don't want anybody to miss our and have to sit in the main room and not be engaged in a discussion. So what we're going to do is we're just going to have one breakout room. And with that, and a lot of comments for all of the presenters today about what amazing work is going on. It really is. I'm so inspired and excited. But we're going to have one breakout room. I'm going to put up these, Debbie has these discussion questions. She's going to be in the school garden room. The main room will be the community garden room. And so we'll pull up these discussion prompts. Just, you know, sometimes we're all like talking over each other, and sometimes it's like sort of that we need the icebreaker, so we don't have to follow along with these, but ideas for discussion prompts. What we're going to do is, I said that we had 2 rooms, but I didn't want anybody to miss any of our volunteers to have to sit in a waiting room. So we're going to have one community garden breakout room. We're going to chat until, I'd say probably about 11:20 or 11:25. Debbie and I can communicate and see if we're ready to wrap up a little early, but no later than 11:25. You'll be able to, I haven't opened the breakout rooms yet, but you will be able to self-select. Community gardens will be in the main room, and school gardens will be the breakout room. And if you need any help getting into those, into the school garden room, then just let us know. We'll help you out. And if you are want to hang out in the community garden room, that's here. So what I'm going to do, let's see, I'm just going to check the chat and make sure. Okay. Oh, great. All right. Well, I'm having a great Saturday morning too. Okay. So for the breakout room, it's just one. It's going to say open all rooms. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording so that we have, so I'm pausing the recording. Debbie, remind me to start it when we come back. So we just got we're returning from our breakout sessions, and I think everybody's back, and we thank you so much for joining us today. And so I just want to, Debbie, maybe since I'm sharing the screen, if you're able to drop the link for registration for our next workshop, which is on, we went ahead and picked May 14th. We wanted to do one in April, but we know that everybody is busy with Earth Month activities, especially if we're going back to being in person. So we're going to be on May 14th again. And if you want to present at an upcoming workshop, and we'll do another one in the third quarter, probably in late August, and another one in October or November. So if you want to present at a future workshop, we would love to have you. If you guys, we've talked about this several times, and we're going to definitely, Debbie and I are going to work together to capture everything in the chat. There was a lot of websites and Instagrams and other social media pages that were shared. There was also community gardens, like Lynn shared a community garden that would love to have community support and help with, as Elizabeth Mcswain calls it, sweat equity. So we're going to compile all those and send those in an email out to everybody who registered. I am the kind of person that always thinks of something at the last minute after the fact, after the meeting is ended. And if you want to email us with anything that you would like us to add, we'll get that out at the latest, the email out by Monday. So you have another day or so to get those resources out. And think if you come to our next community and school and community garden collaborative workshop, think about any resources you would like to share at that point too. We also have a survey. I know that not everybody likes to fill out surveys. All of the questions are optional. And if you just want to provide some feedback or something that you'd like to see included, like Linda was talking about hot compost or something in the future, feel free to fill out any part of the survey and only add your email address if you want us to follow up with anything that you've commented on. I did have a presentation just because there's always technology issues. I did create a short presentation, 10 tips for school and community garden seed saving that we're gonna put into the on our YouTube channel in the next day or so, and we'll include that link in the email that we send out on Sunday or Monday. So if you're interested in learning more about seed saving, I have a short 15 or so minute talk that we're going to be adding to the YouTube channel that we created just for you guys. And with that, I want to say just from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for joining us today. I love to see how we're all working together around this central focus of gardens. And like I said, in our community garden breakout room, it's not just about the garden, it's all of the benefits that come with gardening. And I think we all know that. And today was just a stellar example of the ways these things can be implemented in a community, at an individual school, at a district-wide level. It was just amazing. Please take the survey, reach out to our Master Gardener helpline, follow us on social media, and we'll be compiling all these resources and sending them out. So we really hope to see you out there in the real world, see you at our next workshop, and have you join us again. Thank you, Debbie, for your co-hosting and dropping links in the chat and being my partner in crime to make all this happen. Thank you to all the Master Gardeners who are the ambassadors out there. I love that every organization that spoke today really talked about the vital importance of our Master Gardeners, because that's all of you out there who are Master Gardeners on. And it's not too late to fill out the application if you want to become a Master Gardener. Check out our website. But just thank you to everybody for all you do. And thank you to the community members who would take your time on a Saturday to come and talk more about all of the great stuff you do and learn from your partners. Debbie, do you want to add anything else?
No, just want to thank everybody for coming. I hope, Maggie and I hope that you learned something today. You got something out of this. You made some connections, and will continue to join us for future meetings and future projects. But if you have any questions or need any information, please feel free to contact Maggie or myself. And you can always call the helpline as well, and your message will get to us.
Awesome. Well, and thank you again to our speakers. I mean, just thank you to everybody. It's like, I'm just so excited. And with that, I know it's a cloudy day where I am, but, and we do have Master Gardener office hours in 15 minutes, but I'm going to go run around outside for 15 minutes and just bask in the excitement and energy that I got from you all today. So have a great day. Happy gardening. And we are here to help.